National Retail Federation CEO Matt Shea joined us this week to discuss the difficulty in prosecuting these crimes. He says that's a big reason for all of it. We asked which cities or states needed a change in approach from the local authorities. Here's what he had to say.
One is in New York, and Mayor Adams and the work that he's doing with his task force. There are many retailers involved in that, and many CEOs and senior executives. The Partnership for New York has been very involved, lots of CEOs involved there.
Which leads us to this conversation. Joining us right now to talk about that issue and the overall challenges facing New York City, Kathryn Wylde, Partnership for New York City President and CEO. Good morning to you, Kathryn. It's great to see you. Matt, as you saw, calling out New York as one of the cities where this retail theft problem is a major issue. I'm curious where you think New York, or how you think New York is doing, how you think the mayor is doing, and frankly, how you think the governor and everybody in Albany is doing on this issue.
Well, we've made a lot of progress in New York. The photos you saw of the Nordstroms in LA were something that we experienced in the summer of 2020, but we really have not had since the smash and grab. What we've learned is that shoplifting is now part of organized crime. It's a combination of online sales of goods and the fact that for a while the streets were pretty empty and you could get away with a lot. So we've been working with the New York State Attorney General Tish James, with the district attorneys, obviously with Mayor Adams and the NYPD, the FBI, and all the retailers have really come together to cooperate to make sure that we're doing everything possible. And so, for example, they're going after the fences, the folks who are actually employing local people to go in, steal something, and then it's, again, organized crime. So in addition, the DAs are aggregating these offenses. So, you just get a desk appearance if you steal less than $1,000 worth of goods in one visit. But then those who are coming back every day to the same stores, and it's $800, $900 a day, they're aggregating those offenses. So this becomes a felony, and it's possible to put people in jail for it.
Right. Well, Kathryn, that's where I was going to go with this, because this is as much an economic issue as it's become a political one. You heard about it on Wednesday night during the GOP debate. How much of this is a function and of the perception of this being a blue state issue where the rules and regulations around what is a misdemeanor and a felony have shifted, it seems, over the last several years, and that is one of the reasons that has led to this height in crime around retail?
I think there's a debate over that's fair to have, but perhaps to blame bail reform, to blame the criminal justice reforms for what's going on, I think is just not accurate. What we're seeing is a much higher level of unprovoked crime, which has crime stats are actually going down, are improving, but people's fear and sense of lawlessness in the streets has to do with patterns that started during the pandemic, where there's dirt bikes riding down Fifth Avenue, where there's random violence, unprovoked violence. People are assaulting someone not to rob them, but just to take out anger. Some of this has to do with our laws around mental health. We don't have the ability for involuntary treatment and confinement of people who are seriously mentally ill, for example. So there are legal statutory problems. Both the governor and mayor are trying to address those, but that's only one part of the issue.
It is still a broken window issue in the following way, and I'm curious how you think what the responsibility of business should be. Most of these companies with these retail shops have a policy, which is if somebody goes in and smashes and grabs and tries to take stuff, let them go, let them walk out, try to keep everybody safe, and don't do anything about it. There are some people who think that that's a mistake, that maybe actually retail needs to become more aggressive. They have security guards there. Should they actually use them? Would that change the dynamic? What do you think?
Well, the dynamic has changed. For the luxury stores, the bigger stores that were targets during the pandemic, they have the resources to hire off-duty cops with uniform, with guns, who can seriously be a serious defense. Again, the safety of employees is very important, but the big stores have taken action. The problem is basically for the smaller operators that don't have the resources to do that. But they've got a close working relationship with the precincts and the police. There's been major attention paid to this in New York. So we are definitely moving in the right direction.
Okay, other big hot button issue in New York, but boy, is it a national hot button issue, and that is immigration. And what we're seeing in terms of illegal immigrants coming to New York. I think the number is now up to 2,500 some odd illegal immigrants a week. There's efforts to put tents and housing and all sorts of things together for them. But this is becoming what some people are describing as a meaningful crisis in New York. I know it's a crisis in many other states. The governor now asking for help from President Biden. Big questions about whether these people should be allowed to work, whether that's an important element of this. How does this get solved?
Well, the federal government has to step in. Number one is making sure the borders are secure. The people who are coming in are not illegal. They're being allowed in by Border Patrol and certified as parolees, and it may be temporary, but they're coming in. They're not being detained at the border. They're basically being shipped to cities around the country, including New York, which has had more than 100,000 in less than a year. 20% of them young children. So these are families. They are asylum seekers. The process for getting an asylum application completed and being able to get a work permit is very lengthy. The bureaucracy is very difficult. The city and state have put together a major effort to try and expedite, but we really need the federal government to step in. And the Governor Hochul yesterday joined Mayor Adams in calling on the White House to take action to support us, both in terms of funding, providing facilities, and work permits.